Monday night. Glad you could join us. Weather's changing as we speak. Rain moving in, cold weather moving in behind it, and it's going to be a brutal week weather-wise. Not quite as bad on Saturday, but temperature in the 50s, and by the time the game is over, going to be in the 30s. So be weather aware over the next 5 to 7 days. Coming up on the Fred McNair radio program, a recap of the Grambling game, what happened, what might have happened, what could have happened, what did happen, what didn't happen. All of that, a lot to unpack here. 601-877-6595. You can tweet a question. I'm on Twitter, Tallman Radio. You can text a question, 601-348-7254. Glad you can join us, one and all, on this Monday night. Braves head football coach Fred McNair here in studio. Good evening, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing good, Charles.
Coach, I'm not doing so well. I'm still kind of stung, shocked in terms of what happened on Saturday. And, you know, I like good football. I think every football fan loves good football. And if you just look at what happened on the field, it was a good football game. Unfortunately, we have situations and calls that were made, and calls are made in every game, and you can scratch your head on every call. And some okay, some not so okay, and some downright just perplexing. And I think that's what we had on Saturday. So we're going to start there, Coach. We're going to go over all the scoring and all of that. But I know fans on social media and even in the barbershops, I'm sure, in the grocery stores, in the streets, in the living rooms, all that are still talking about some of the calls that were made. So I know as coaches you really don't get into it that much, but just as you saw some of these calls unfold, you know, what was going through your mind, and how tough was it out there when you see flags picked up? And by the way, we were situated above and behind the ESPN broadcast, Jay Walker, Tiffany Green. And I can see the monitors, so I can see the replays. So I can see what's going on. And there were some, you know, they were scratching their heads too at times. I don't know if they said it during the broadcast or not, but you could just tell during the breaks, like, what in the heck's going on out there? Was that kind of your thinking as well as this game unfolded, some of the whistles made, some of the calls made, some of the laundry picked up and all that?
It's always difficult as a coach when you see flags are thrown and it's not in your favor, and then they get picked up a lot of times, and you wonder what's going on with the call and how do they arrive at that decision sometimes, Charles. But, you know, I'm just a football coach, and I try to coach the young men to play the game the way it's supposed to be played, you know, and that's the best as coaches that we can do. In terms of the officials, those are things that's out of our control. You know, we can't control that, and the best thing that we can do as coaches, you know, I do my best of being an argumentative on the field and try to get a good understanding of what the call was and why was it picked up and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you know, we get a chance to come back and watch it on film, and some of the things that we see on film don't quite understand it, so we send it in to the head official so they can review it and give us some feedback on it. And that's the best that we can do as coaches, but it doesn't do any good to raise a whole lot of sand on the field because you're not going to get it the way you want it. So kind of let the people and everybody else talk about it. But as coaches, we just try to put our guys in the best position to play the game the way it's supposed to be played and do the right things in terms of penalties. That's one thing that I always talk to my guys about, the penalties that occur during the course of a game and what they do during the course of a game as far as penalties. So we just kind of eliminate some of those through the whole process. And officials going to call the game the best way they see it, I guess.
There were 21 penalties in the game. Grambling had 14, and we had 7. The process for sending clips in, is that something that you do on Mondays? Is that something that you did yesterday or Saturday night? How does that work?
Well, normally when you review the film as coaches, we always we know the call that was made on the field during the course of a game. So when we get back to the campus, we always watch film again on that game on Saturday, on Sunday, so we get a chance to review it Some of the clips that we think that was questionable calls, we gather them up and put them in a file and mail them back to the official, the head officials, and let them look at it, and so we get some feedback on it. So in terms of those files, we'll know how to interpret those files to our players as well, as the officials interpret them to us, just to get a lot of feedback on it. But we always send, we sent some in today. We sent about 8 in today. So
8?
Yeah, we did. We had some on there that we sent in, and so they get reviewed. And but of course, they got the whole game. They're watching it anyway, so they do get the game uploaded the same way we do when we get back and put it on our DV Sports deal. So they get the game and they get a chance to watch it themselves as well.
How long does it take for you to get some sort of response? Yeah, this was the right call. No, this was not the right call. When you get that?
Normally, I got some feedback on some yesterday from Eddie Kelly on some of the penalties that was called during the course of the game, and I got some feedback on it, and some of them that he didn't see that we sent in today. We'll probably get feedback on those probably tomorrow.
Do you wish to share any of those?
No, I'm gonna keep those to my hack, Charles, and I'm gonna let the officials do what they have to do in terms of that. And a lot of times, it doesn't do us any good to talk about the officials and how they call the game. I think the fans do enough of that themselves. And as coaches, you want to keep peace sometimes with the officials, because you still got to play the game. And I don't think they hold anything against. They're gonna call it the way they see it. Sometimes in the coach's eyes, not the best call the way we see it, so we let them handle that, and we try to be a little argumentative against those calls that we don't like, so that's the best way we handle it.
The one for me, and I don't know if you got clarification on this one, the one that was the head scratcher for me was the interference on the punt, on the punt return. Clearly on the replay, our guy ran by, the guy didn't even touch him. I mean, you never saw the return guy's body move or anything like that. Like if it was a nudge, maybe I could get that one. But our guy clearly ran by, and that he was the only one that was kind of in the area at the time the ball was in the air. That's the only one that's the one for me that kind of got me. Were you able to get any, was that the ones you got clarity on?
Well, that was one of them, and what was stated was that we have to give him time to go through the process of a catch. Even though he called for a catch, he have to go through it to catch, even though he muffs it. But when he muffed it, it came right into one of our guys' arm. He bobbled it twice, and it fell into our guy's arm. So don't really have the full interpretation of that rule, not yet, Charles, but that's one that we're looking forward to hearing from the officials later this week.
There's a lot to talk about with that. I guarantee it's just a weird game in terms of those calls. And tell you what, wasn't weird on the field, Coach. It was a terrific football game. I mean, defensively, we hung tough. I mean, it was a battle in the trenches in both D lines, offensive lines too. Really got after it. I thought the trenches were really things were happening there.
I think that in every football game, that's where the game is mostly won, how well you can open gaps for the running backs and how well you can protect the passer in the passing game. And I think that, both defenses came out and played extremely hard. I think our guys really strained themselves, in the way they played, over the course of the game. And as well as Grambling, their defense was stingy too. So, we just didn't finish some of the plays that we should have, Charles. We was 6 of 21 on third downs, and that's not going to get it for any program. We just got to get better on third downs, and some of the things that you see on the field, is not what we really do in terms of how we execute the play. Being able to execute it on third down, that's what our desire is, to finish it. And basically, that's when it comes down to it, it's just us about finishing games. And I think our defense did a tremendous job of holding them on third down. They were 7 of 19, so they kind of stuck out right there. So it was a defensive battle. Neither defense really just gave up anything on it. It was one of those games where field goals gonna have to win it, you know. And so we strung it out there as long as we could. So I think that what we did, we got a chance to look back at it during the course of the film and see some of the mistakes that we had and trying to correct them for this coming up week.
All right, we're going to go to the phone lines. I know a bunch of folks want to talk to you, Coach. So Marquise always starts us off. So Marquise at 13 minutes after 6. Good evening. How are you?
How you doing, dog?
Doing pretty good.
What's going on, bro?
What's up, Marquise, my man?
Yeah, man. What's happening, y'all?
That's tough, Marquise. We just trying to fill our way through, man, and try and get better this week. Get ready for a good A&M Bulldogs football team this week. We got a tough one coming up, and you know, so it's a game that we have to have, and I think that, you know, our guys is up for the task, and we'll play hard and we'll strain through this one, man, and try to get this victory this week.
Yeah, and any word for Lord Johnson coming back? Y'all think it was awful?
Nah, we just gonna continue to get Noah better as far as his physical therapist, Marquise, and see where he at with that in a couple weeks, and see how it looked then, man.
All right, Marquise, thank you very much for calling in. We got a bunch of calls to get to. So let's get to the action, Coach. We actually won the toss and took the football. Talk a little bit about that strategy right off the bat.
Yeah, I think that, you know, sometime when you give us a chance to get off fast to a fast start and see what they're really doing to us, Charles, and that's what we want to do in terms of taking the ball first and get us to a fast start and kind of feel what the defense is going to give us. You know, so I think that what we did, and I think that what the result of what we wanted to do, we didn't get a score on that drive. So that's the outcome of it.
One of the things, Coach, I know we like to run that stretch play from side to side. I know there were 3 times, at least early on, that I counted. Unfortunately, they were like negative plays. Was Grambling trying to stretch that thing out a little?
No, Charles, we had some bad execution on that one, on all those stretch plays, and we revamped it and got back to some of the things that we normally do. Blocking wasn't as great as it should have been on the edge there, so we didn't get a chance to get to the edge. So we just got to get better at that and get those guys moving in terms of the blocking scheme.
And teams all over the world run the stretch play. The purpose of that stretch play is to...
It's basically get outside and get everybody displaced and for the linemen to run their tracks and get a body on the body and increase a gap. And in some instances, you'll do that. But it's a good football play. I think everybody in America run that play too, Charles. So that's why it's been so good. But you have to block it the way it should be blocked and to get the full effect of it.
All right, so we did win the toss, took the football, didn't do much with the first possession. So as we roll forward, Coach, we go to the second quarter, and of course we'll be dealing with all of the highlights throughout the course of the game. You know, we got a 3-0 lead early in the second quarter, Coach, on a McCullough field goal of 29 yards. So talk about the first quarter. I mean, it was kind of a tussle back and forth, not many possessions, not many opportunities, not many penalties in that first quarter.
That's right, Charles, and I think that, you know, like I said, both teams was really kind of stingy on the defensive side, you know, and that's part of the game, you know, how well can defense play. And I think that our defense stuck out in the first quarter and played really hard and not giving up any points in the first quarter. So, you know, we was able to get the ball back later in the first quarter, going into the second quarter and being able to get down to about the 3-yard line and get a field goal out of it.
You know, I was kind of concerned about Hickbottom. He had 185 yards and 3 touchdowns in the previous game against Texas Southern. Of course, he was ejected in the game in the third quarter. I thought we did a really nice job of containing their running game, including Hickbottom.
No, we did, Charles, and I get my hats off to those big guys up front on the defensive line. You know, just gap integrity and playing the gaps where they should be played, and then being back on the back end, doing the thing they should do to cover the receivers up and come down and run fit for them. So I think they did a great job of containing him for that first quarter there.
So the Braves led 3-0 at one point, and it was a 3-3 game, and then the Braves trailed 10-3 at one point in the game as Grambling started at the Braves' 34-yard line as Hickbottom's pass to Thomas for the touchdown of 11 yards. So they had a 66-yard drive there. Talk about that.
It was a good drive for him, Charles. He made some big plays. They converted some big plays on third down there, I think, going into that second quarter. And that was good. The defense just kind of got strung out there and just gave up a touchdown there.
Then Harper had a couple of picks, and you talked about it on the teleconference today, that one of them clearly a pass intended for Pringle. He slipped on his cut. If he didn't slip where the ball was, where it was picked off, that's where Pringle would have been.
Yeah, he gets in that seam right there, Charles, and after him coming around the nickel, he kind of fell down and lost his footing. And Felix, he get the ball out on time, and that's where it's supposed to be. He just slipped on it and just fell right into the arms of the safety.
Speaking of slipping, we did have some players slip. Were there some issues with the turf or just trying to get that footing?
I think a lot of times is the way we cut on the inside of our feet, Charles. And that's not what we do. We do not cut on the inside, on our inside foot. So get a chance to slide a little bit and do those things because you're so much off balance that way.
Well, so with the turnover, and of course, there were 2 interceptions by Harper, one in the end zone, close to the end zone. It was, of course, the Braves got a turnover, but then got off the field, and we got the ball coach with 4:08 left in the first half. And we put a 75-yard drive together, 7 plays, 75 yards in 2 minutes, kind of the 4-minute offense, if you will.
Yeah, that's a good drive for us right before halftime, Charles, and that's the things that you want to do late in the game. You want to have those long, sustained drives, methodical drives to kind of milk the clock down to where you need to be. And I thought we did a great job of getting that score within a minute and 58 seconds, to tie that ball game up before halftime.
Yeah, we had a 3rd and 2 from our own 33, and Nico Duffy, a 31-yard run. Rodarius Anderson, a huge game on Saturday.
Barry been playing really well for us, Charles. He really come back from last year and being a beast for us on the outside up there, and made a great catch in the end zone for that touchdown, going up getting the ball at his highest point. So that was great by him.
So it was 10-10 at that point. Grambling got the football with 2:06 left at their 17-yard line, and they were able to punt, and we were able to take it into the locker room. 10-10 our score at the break, Coach. So, what were your thoughts to your team? 10-10 back and forth, kind of a defensive tussle. On paper you can see where it could have been an offensive, productive type of game, but it was kind of the opposite. If you love defense, that was your kind of game.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, Charles. And you want it that way. You want it to be a real tight game sometimes, and where it's not a really runaway on their half. You want to play close, and I thought we did a great job of keeping it close. We try to score as many points as we can, but they got to give them credit. Their defense played well.
All right, so we'll take a break here. We'll get to some of your tweets in the midst of all this. When we look at the 3rd quarter and 4th quarter scoring, we'll take your tweets, your texts. We've got a bunch of them. We appreciate Marquise calling in. And, of course, we'll reflect back on the life of longtime baseball and assistant football coach Willie Rap McGowan. And last Thursday, former student-athlete Michael Fantroy passed away. So we'll get Coach's thoughts on that as we roll along here on the Fred McNair Radio Show. 22 minutes after 6. We'll be back after this timeout. Radio show on this Monday night. Glad you can join us. 601-877-6595. You can tweet a question, Tall Man Radio. You can text a question, 601-348-7254. Speaking of the Twitter feed, let's get right to it. Mr. T with the tweet. Seems like Coach Felix was rattled and scrambling a lot. Will there be more detailed focus on the offensive line this week?
Well, that's one thing that we try to put focus on this whole week, this past week, Charles, for Grambling, and to make sure that Felix was comfortable and just being able to get him comfortable in the situations that we put him in. One of the things that we really focused on, that we'll be focused on again this week, making sure he's comfortable behind the line and protection. We did have a lot of one-on-one miscues there early in the game, and I think it kind of settled down a little bit after that, and made some great throws.
T.J. Mayfield's wondering how much of the slow start comes from rust in the bye. We've had 2 bye weeks in the last 3.
Well, I don't think it's that a slow start coming from a bye week. I just think that sometimes when you have you have a coach on the other sideline as well too, Charles, and they game plan as well. And sometimes, you know, when we come out and we headbutt sometimes, and then that's just the way it is. But hopefully we can come out this week and have a better start and continue to sustain drives and put the ball in the box and score points.
Well, speaking of a good start, we got off to a good start in the third quarter. Grambling got the football and basically went 3 and out. Braves got the football with 12:38 left at Grambling 17, and it started, Coach, by the Charles Pringle 53-yard punt return.
Ejderman did a great job for us catching the ball in punt return. He's been doing an excellent job this whole year and doing things that he needed to do at the receiver spot too. It was a great punt return for us.
We had a 3rd and 10 at Grambling 17, and Felix Harper took a sack. Talk about that a little bit. He was sacked two or three times in the game. Was Grambling's defensive line that aggressive? I know a couple of times Felix tried to get rid of it but couldn't.
Well, that's the thing. We teach him that. We tell him that every day. And Coach White been doing a good job coaching him up about throwing the ball away. One shot in the pocket, just throw it away. I mean, that sack was an elevated sack. He shouldn't have took it. And the first thing Felix will tell you, he should have thrown the ball away. So he knows that was a mistake on his part.
All right, so the Braves get the lead right there, 13-10 in the third quarter. Grambling comes right back as the Tigers get it at their 31. They get to the Braves 17, and Mendez missed a field goal. So both teams, trying to get some things done with that particular drive. The Braves got the ball with 9:35 left at a 3rd and 10 from Grambling's 26, and that's the other pick, Coach. Harper intercepted by Xavier Lodge at Grambling's 4-yard line.
Yeah, and that's another throw that Felix don't make. 10 out of 10, he don't make that throw. He knows he should have come to the outside where the corner was. He had Charles Pringle wide open on the corner route, and with the safety high like that, he know to come outside and work on the corner to the nickel, which he didn't do. He just threw it up and thought he could give it to Radarius Anderson, but he'll tell you again, that's a throw that he won't make under those circumstances.
So we got the ball at Grambling's 26-yard line. So that was a good situation there. And also in the game, Coach, we had a situation where Hickbottom, of course, ejected in the third quarter, was intercepted by Cole. Talk a little bit about that play.
An outstanding play by Cole, getting that pick there and just coming down with the football. Cole is a very talented athlete, and he's a very good safety for us, and they've been doing a tremendous job for us the whole year.
So, Coach, you look at the game. I mean, it was back and forth, 10-10, 13-10, 16-10. We led 16-10, Coach, at the end of the third quarter. So talk about where you were when at the third quarter, back and forth, our defense just kind of holding fort and keeping Grambling's offense from really doing a lot, especially in that third quarter when Hickbottom was ejected from the game. Talk about that third quarter, when it looked like, your starting quarterback goes down, you have a guy that doesn't get a lot of reps, yet he made one big throw with 40 seconds left, but yet we were able to rattle him a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, Charles, and that's the thing about the offense. We got to be able to sustain those drives during that time. We're up by 6. We need one more score. I know the defense do a great job of holding those guys, and we need one more score to go up by two scores, and I think we'll be fine. We just got to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to sustain those drives. That means converting on third downs and doing the things we're supposed to do as an offense to keep the defense off the field. So, but we didn't get a chance to finish those drives like we should have.
So we'll take a timeout here with 16-10. We'll look at the fourth quarter and overtime coming up after this 1-minute timeout. We'll get to some text on the other side, 601-877-6595. You can tweet a question on Twitter, Tallman Radio. Text a question, 601-348-7254. Fourth quarter recap coming up after this 1-minute timeout. In lead going into the fourth quarter, let's forward it a little bit. 7:17 left. Charles Wright in at quarterback for Jeremy Hickbottom, who was ejected in the third quarter. We really rattled him a little bit in the fourth quarter, trying to finish the game off. Grambling got the football with 7:17 left in the fourth at their own 16-yard line. Charles Wright's pass intercepted by Wilson. Talk about that.
That was a great job by Wilson picking that ball off 2 Charles. Like I said, those guys do a great job of eyeing the football when it's in the air. So they did a great job of intercepting and a great job by him.
Didn't do much with that interception, though, Coach. We got it with 7:08 left. We had a 1st and 10 from the 40. We were behind the chains. Again, we've talked about this, being behind the chains, 2nd and 12, 3rd and 12. On that drive after the turnover, we were at a 3rd and 12. We were behind the chains. We had a false start. How much does that take the wind out of the sails when you have these pre-snap penalties? And that's what false starts are, pre-snap penalties.
It is, Charles, and that's something that we just can't have, and the guys know it too. And we just can't be behind the chain. Like I said, we played a great football team in Grambling, so we can't afford to be behind the chains a lot. And that's one thing that we tell the guys, that we can't overcome those kind of penalties. Those are just crazy penalties that we can't really have. So we just continue to talk to them about it and try and correct it for the upcoming week.
All right, so a pass incomplete intended for Blair. That was a 5-play drive. It took 3:17 off the clock. So I thought, Coach, in the 4th quarter, we did a fairly decent job of managing the clock, letting the play clock milk down a little bit. We had the lead and just trying to pick up 1st downs and force Grambling to burn some time out.
And that's exactly right. And that's what you want to do in that situation. You're up 6 and you want to burn some more time off the clock, and that means getting 1st downs and converting 1st downs. And we didn't do that, and we run time off the clock. But if we get one more 1st down, that's another 3 minutes off the clock. So don't give them that much time with the ball.
All right, so after that short drive, even though it took 3:17 off the clock, Grambling got the football in the 4th quarter with 3:51 left at their own 20-yard line. However, we were called for a personal foul, and they started at the 35. What was that all about?
That was on Malik Hobart. Just a penalty that we can't do, and that's why he went to the dressing room. We sent him to the dressing room after that penalty, and that was one of the things that, you saved those 15 yards. Now you're on the 20 instead of the 35, and now they got 10 more yards to go. It's still an 80-yard drive now, and those things just can't really happen. And we call them dumb penalties, and that's what it was.
So instead of the 20, it's at the 35-yard line. Grambling was able to get to the Braves' 29-yard line, and Charles Wright's pass to Kobe Ross, 29 yards with 1:07 left in the 4th quarter. Talk about that play. Talk about what happened and what didn't happen.
Well, what didn't happen was the corner didn't get back in his zone. Played it tight, and I wish he should have been back, and then he slipped and couldn't gain his footing, and so the ball go over his head for a touchdown. And in that situation, we had the right call on. I think Coach Thornton did a great job of calling defense, but the young man got to know that play the call is called, and he got caught slipping and peeping. Thought the guy was going to do something else, but that's not his job to think about what he's going to do. Just get back in the zone and cover it up. So we got one throw by head right there, Charles.
Yep, and that was probably the best throw he's made all year right there. 29 yards. PAT no good, Coach, so 16 all game. Grambling was called for an unsportsmanlike, obviously, in the celebration. So we got the football, Coach, with 58 seconds left at midfield, and we were able to get to Grambling's 30-yard line. Talk about how we handled the last minute of the 4th quarter to get ourselves in position.
I think that, first of all, on the kickoff, that Javen Marshall did a great job returning the ball to the 50-yard line, and with the amount of time that we had with a couple of timeouts, and I thought we did a pretty decent job. I wish we could have got that last 1st down that we tried to get there and get a little closer, but I thought we was close enough for Corey to be able to kick it in the amount of time that we had left, and just manage the clock the way we did. And I thought we did a great job up there getting in field goal range for him. And he just pushed it wide right. He didn't hook it none. So Corey been on time for us. He been good for us, and it just so happened that he just missed that one.
And obviously, frustration of tweets come in about thinking about changing kickers, but I'm sure that probably was never a thought.
No, I never thought of mine, Charles. And Corey been good for us, and during the course of the pregame Corey tweaked his ankle. That's why we had Greg Blue kicking off. But Corey was tough enough to get back in there and kick some field goal for us and make them. Just so happened, that long field goal we had, he just didn't open his hips up and hook the ball back to the left. Just pushed it right a little bit. But Corey been doing an exceptional job for us. Punting, kicking, and doing the things we asked him to do.
So with that's why Blue is doing some kicking off there.
That's exactly right.
Talk about the job Blue has done in terms of being a holder, because he's been doing a lot more of that of late.
Kickers are very unique, Charles, and they want everything perfect. And those guys be together every day in practice, and they snap and hold, and they snap and hold, and continue to do it for each other. Corey hold for Blue, Blue hold for Corey, and he's been doing an excellent job for Corey of getting the ball down and getting good placement. And we talk about the operation, good snap, good hold, good kick. So those guys working together is something unique that you see in the NFL with the punter and the kicker. The punter hold for the kicker all the time. So they've been doing a great job of doing the things we actually do to make sure we get points.
Well, talk about Morrison in that 41-yard kickoff return. He doesn't get many opportunities. A lot of fair catches, a lot of kicks out of bounds. So he took advantage of one good opportunity he had right there.
I think the kickoff return guys did a great job of putting the body on the body. We don't actually really knock anybody out. Just shield them and push them to where they want to go. And Morrison was able to find a gap there and hit it. And I thought he was going to try to score it one time, but he had two guys to beat, and they was already back there. So we're just grateful that he was able to return it to the 50-yard line like he did to give us an opportunity to get in field goal range.
All right, so at 16-all in overtime, we obviously won the toss, and the key in overtime, you win the toss, you defer, you want the ball second to see what you have to do. So you get the ball at the 25 going in, and talk about how we were able to handle that situation in the first overtime on defense to force a 45-yard field goal from Mendez.
I thought the defense did a great job of holding them back there. We likely got them out of field goal range, Charles. We had a missed tackle on the quarterback on the scramble. But like I said, we liked to got them out of field goal range. I thought they did a great job of holding those guys to a field goal at that point.
All right, so it was 19-16. So now the Braves, a touchdown wins it. Field goal sends us to a second overtime. Anything less than that, the game is over. So we get the ball at the 25. Chris Blair, and then we had open receivers, Coach, throughout the game. And that time, Blair was streaking, was right there. Just you hit him, game's over.
That's exactly right, Charles. He just overthrew it and then just right there and just missed it.
Then pass to Pringle, incomplete pass. Talk about that particular play.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough one right there, and trying to get Pringle across the middle there. And if he come back and throw the curl flat, which he should have, we got to play there.
But then on third down, Nico Duffy's 12-yard hard run. First down for the Braves. Then Nico a 2-yard gain to the 11. Felix Harper's pass incomplete to Blair. Another situation where that could have been a touchdown as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And just trying to get it to the open guy, and just missed the opportunity.
How much is the false start? Because we had a false start right there as well. How much did that set us back?
Well, anytime you get that close, Charles, and you talk about 5 yards, and from where we kick the field goal from, if you leave it there where it's at, it's probably made. But I think Corey just pulled a little bit and kept it to the left this time. So the old kickers they try their best to do the things they need to get done to make the kick. So you just pull that to the left.
And, of course, at the end, he missed a 33-yard field goal. I mean, the obvious question, I think you talked about it a little bit, because he was kind of banged up. You think that impacted those field goals?
No, because he made some earlier.
Yeah.
Corey was good on field goals earlier, so he was good. He kicked a 20-yard field goal, and then he kicked a 40-yard field goal, so come back and kick a 41-yard field goal. So, I don't think they had an impact. I think, just his mechanic, and he'll tell you more than anybody what he did wrong. He's quick to say that. So just unfortunate there. We dropped out by 3, and like I said, we just got to regroup and get the guys better and get them ready for a good A&M Bulldog team coming in this week.
How tough was the locker room emotionally after the game?
Well, you look back at it, Charles, and the young men know they played hard, Charles. They strained every fiber of their body to try to get that win. When you go in and see how emotional they is at the end of the game, and you just got to get them to understand. We just got to finish. We haven't finished the game yet, so that's the biggest thing. If we get that point across, showing we just finished the ball game, I think that the locker room will be a whole lot better at the end of the ball game now.
You look at the final numbers. Felix Harper, 24-48, 269 yards. Just 116 yards rushing, Coach. How tough of sledding was it out there, averaging 3.5 yards a carry?
Well, you got Nico Duff, and at the time, they had Waller running at the beginning of the game, and he kind of tweaked his groin a little bit, and so that's why you didn't see a whole lot of him. But Nico came in and did an outstanding job for us. 20 carries for 106 yards. That's a lot. For him with his body frame. We just got to get better and get some of the guys ready to take some of the load off of them this week.
Darius Anderson, 6 catches for 103 yards and a touchdown in the game. I want to go back to the running game a little bit. You talked about Waller going down, Duffy. What about the other guys, Turner and Bolton, not getting a lot of?
Yeah, and Turner was out this game, and Bolton, he was there. He plays a special team for us, but he'll be able to play some this week as well, Charles. We just got to get those guys locked in and loaded up and ready to shoot this game. So I think we'll be fine with those guys.
McCullough averaging 25.3 per punt. You talked about the field goals that he made. He made one from 20, 40, and 41. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Solomon Muhammad, Defensive Player of the Week, 14 tackles, Coach. He had a pick as well that he think if he makes an interception there in the second half, that might have changed things up. Solomon, right place, right time, just couldn't haul it in.
Yeah, that's 9 times out of 10, Solomon make that catch, and those are the things that Coach Thornton try to get out of him. He can give us more. 14 tackles is great, but Solomon can give us more, and he tries his best to play as hard as he can, and Coach Thornton give him the leeway to do that. He just got to make the plays when he can. So, but he's been doing an outstanding job throughout this whole year for us.
All right, we'll take a break here. We got to some of the tweets. We'll get to some more here as they come in, and we've got a bunch of text. We'll get to that coming up after this 1-minute timeout. A lot to unpack here at 43 minutes after the hour. We'll take your calls, your texts, your tweets, your phone calls back after this 1-minute break here on the Fred McNair Radio Show. Monday night, Coach, text has come in. Elliott Radden is Bray's offensive coordinator and also the O-line coach. Talk a little bit about that position. He's the offensive coordinator and O-line coach?
Yes, that he is. He's a play caller and the offensive line coach. And you kind of marry that into what we've been doing for a while. A lot of times your offensive line coach is the coordinator. So in some instance, then you have to have a passing game coordinator. And those guys really work good in the room together. All the offensive staff and what they're accomplishing and the game plan they put together during the course of the week to get it done. So yes, you have to have an offensive coordinator and an offensive line coach. And I think Elliott's been doing a great job with that old line and getting them in preparation for games and calling great games too. So I'm very pleased with what he's doing on this staff.
All right, another text has come in. That's Trey Turner's status, E.J. Thomas's status.
Well, E.J. is coming back around. I think that, just getting him back in the thick of things and what he needs to do in preparation of games and in the course of practice. I just asked Coach Thornton about E.J. today, just bring him up in a conversation and how is he doing as far as getting back to where he needs to be. And I think Coach Thornton said just getting him back and getting his confidence back on the field. He's been hurt with an ankle, and a lot of times that takes a lot out of you when you've been injured. And everything that he's been doing. So Lou Turner had a doctor visit today, and hopefully we'll get good news on that, Charles, and get him back in the lineup as well.
All right, and another question that's coming in. What do we do to shore up our secondary a little bit? Any concerns there?
Well, there's a lot of concerns, Charles. We banged up there too. So this time of year, you're gonna have injuries and things of that nature. So I think Coach Thornton, what he's trying to do now is make sure he got enough pieces to put the puzzle together. I think he's been doing a great job, and I think he'll do a great job of getting everything where it needs to be in terms of the secondary this week.
All right, we'll take one more break here. We'll come back with more text and tweets, and we'll look ahead to Alabama A&M. Coach Cornell Maynor, and you talk about a gunslinger quarterback. We're going to face one this weekend, over 3,000 yards passing in a Keel Glass. We'll talk about it. Take our final break, and we'll take it all the way to the top. Back in 1 minute here on the Fred McNair Radio Show. Fred McNair Radio Show. We'll get to the phones in one moment. Coach, another text. This caller felt like we went a little conservative, up 16-10. 4 receiver set was open all game in the middle. Talk about that, if you will.
Well, in terms of that, we try to get to the middle of the field sometimes, and I think what we had to do was make sure that our quarterback was comfortable in the pocket sometimes, Charles. So I don't think the word conservative would be the things that we were just trying to do. We had to do to win this ball game. In those terms, I thought that we did a great job of trying to do that in terms of running the clock and making sure that we didn't give the ball back to them with enough time on the clock to score. So I think that we did a great job of what we had to do to try and win this ball game.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. I believe it's Cedric Foster calling in. Good evening. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's all my question. But I just wanted to say that a white guy Wednesday this week, Tallahassee on Friday, going to be there for the game. And this station is just about it. I thought I was breaking that thing down. Now I have a clear picture of what kind of happened.
Well, we're going to get into that here coming up in just a moment here, Mr. Foster. And it's pretty simple. I mean, if the Braves win and Jackson State loses, then there it is. Because A&M will have 3 losses, Jackson State will be there, and we'll have 1 loss, and that'll clear the way for us. But if that doesn't happen, then there's a whole bunch of other things that are in play. Alabama State mathematically is still alive. So this is huge here for the Braves coming up.
We will. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, we appreciate it. And, yeah, we do kind of put everything up 10 minutes before. We just kind of do a little banner and talk about something, talk about nothing. And I know that's kind of what everyone's been wondering, where do we stand, what do we have to do, and all the different scenarios. But we win, and a Jackson State loss, we got it. Anything else, we'll talk about it next week. Let's hope we can at least do our part. Coach, a couple of tough losses this last week from the Alcorn family. The longtime baseball, longtime defensive coordinator, family member, Willie Rapp McGowan passed. I was on my way back from Memphis last Wednesday, doing a girls game up in Memphis. And by the way, the men's team will play Paul Quinn tomorrow at 5:30. We'll have that game right here on the Braves Sports Network at 5:45, tip-off at 6. Just your thoughts on Coach McGowan.
Great guy. Actually, Coach McGowan recruited me out of high school to come to Alcorn, and a phenomenal guy, legendary baseball coach, Charles, and a great football coach, and he always had a story to tell, Charles. So we got a good memory of our family here at Alcorn that we're gonna miss, Charles, and been missed for a while. So just continue to pray for the family, and all the condolence goes out to them, Charles, and the way they handling things. So we just gotta keep praying for them.
And then on Thursday, former football player, former student athlete, Michael Fantroy passed away. He was a 4-year letter winner with the Braves football program from 1979 through 82. He was a part of the 79 championship game that finished the season with an 82 record under then Coach Marino Cassim. He graduated from Alcorn in May of 1983. In 2012, Fantroy returned to that reservation and served on the coaching staff as wide receivers coach. He was on campus, Coach, a couple of weeks ago for the '79 team reunion. Your thoughts on Coach Fantroy?
Blessed, a great friend of mine, Charles, and got a chance to see him when I came out of the locker room for the game. I gave him a big hug and told him I love him, Charles, and great person, great individual, Charles, and get a chance to go down to Mobile and do some recruiting, and he's right there with you, and he always want to be a part of what we had here, and in 2012 he was a part of it. Always giving us calls and talking about some recruits that he know of, and good Lord bless him to come back for this '79 reunion here at Alcorn. It was great, man. He's a great individual, man, and thoughts and prayers goes out to his wife and his family as well.
I'm sure details will be coming forward, and for Coach, former baseball coach and defensive coordinator Willie Rapp McGowan Sr., the celebration of life for Coach will be in Jackson this Thursday at 11 a.m. at the New Jerusalem Church, 5708 Old Canton Road in Jackson. So as we transition, Coach, still some tweets have come in from the game on Saturday. Talking about the DBs, Alexis Smith believes that the DBs play far off the line, especially when the opposing team only has a few yards to gain on first down. Talk a little about that.
Yeah, some techniques they play, Charles, and I think that what Coach Thornton do is go on until what they probably going to do is probably be a run or whatever it may be. So a lot of times we give them a little cushion, and I think the guys do a great job of coming up and making tackles for us.
This was tough, Coach, and this is my final thing on it. I'm still kind of, ringing in my ears a little bit, just how that game very easily should have probably gone our way. And, we win that game. We're kind of in cruise mode a little bit. And the Jaguar Nation would be celebrating right now because all Southern has to do is beat Jackson State. They would win the West Saturday. But now, it's going to probably come down to the Bayou Classic on that end of it. And, we got to handle our business on our end of it. You hear, and I think Ty Miller asked you today, and my thing is the same as what he said. You can't let a loss beat you twice.
That's exactly right, Charles. And during the course of the meeting this morning, the kids, they understand, Charles, and we talked about it, and we talked about this is the game we must win. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We got to go out and win this ball game. And so from that standpoint, they really understand that.
All right, so let's talk about Alabama A&M, Coach. You look at their season. They won with 9 seconds left, week 1 over Morehouse in the big classic up there in Canton, Ohio. Then a come-from-behind win over Jackson State. I think they were faced with a 4th and 26 with maybe 40 seconds left in the game, and they converted that, and they won that game. They won a close game over Texas Southern. They lost to Samford. They beat North Alabama. They've had some close games. And you look at this Alabama A&M team, one of the most underrated quarterbacks, and you talk to Coach Maynard, he kind of disagrees, but Akil Glass, 3,000 yards passing, 29 touchdowns. What concerns you about Glass as you look at him on Saturday?
3,000-yard passing, Charles. I mean, that's the biggest thing, but he's a phenomenal athlete, a great quarterback in his own world, and just throwing the ball around. And he got some great receivers that going to catch it. So we got to be able to defend that. They got a great running back in Jordan Bentley, running the ball very hard. So we got our work cut out for us, Charles. Coach Thornton, I'm quite sure you're going to put a good game plan together for us and be able to execute it very well. So those guys are very talented over there at Alabama A&M.
The chess match is on. Alabama A&M, the #1 passing offense in the league, averaging 310 a game. The Braves, the #2 passing defense in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. We're also looking at the #1 rushers. You talked about Jordan Bentley. He's averaging 106 yards a game. What kind of runner is he?
He's a hard runner, Charles. He's not a finesse guy. He's going to run straight downhill at you. You just got to tackle him. He's not going to go from side to side. He's just a power back, and Glass going to hand it off to him, and downhill he comes. So got to be able to stop the run.
We're going to have to really defend in space. Ibrahim, 9 receptions, 2 touchdowns, had over 100 yards in receptions in the Jackson State game. So that's a guy we'll have to defend, Coach.
Yes, sir. He's a freshman too, Charles. That kid can fly. Very talented athlete. So got to work cut out for us on that end.
All right. So on the defensive side of things for Alabama A&M, they had 6 sacks versus Jackson State, #9 in the league in scoring defense, giving up an average of 35 points per game. 25 sacks, that's second in the league, only behind Mississippi Valley, third in the conference in picks, only behind Alcorn and Grambling. What's troubling about this A&M defense?
They got a good linebacking core. They got some good kids up front. Marquise Price, big defensive end, about a 6'6" kid, played very hard, extremely hard. Holloway, linebacker. Kelly, he's a great linebacker as well. Those guys make plays, so we got to be ready. Our offensive line got to be ready. We just got to be ready to protect Felix and run the ball well too, Charles, this game. So we got to open up everything this ball game and try to get this win.
Final regular season home game and senior day, and of course the standings. Cedric Foster kind of went over it. We're 4-1, Bama State 4-2, A&M 3-2, Jackson State 3-2, Valley 1-4. So for the Braves, a win over Alabama A&M will be 5-1. Of course, if we do that, A&M will be 3-3, and Jackson State, if they lose to Southern, they'll be 3-3. We would win the Eastern Division. Anything else is going to come down to next week. And the one thing about it, A&M's already beaten Bama State. They beat Jackson State. So A&M, if we don't win, of course, and A&M could very well control the Eastern Division, it will be kind of out of our hands at that point, Coach. So that's the bottom line. We win on Saturday, everything else will fall in place.
That's like I told the kids, Charles, we just control our own destiny, Charles. So we just got to come out and try to get this victory on Saturday, regardless of everything else. So and nothing else really matters for what we got to do on Saturday.
And of course, it's senior day, final regular season home game of the season. So that always adds an extra dynamic to it. You don't want to lose on senior day.
You're exactly right, Charles. I think these guys that senior this time want to go out with a bang, and I think that'll put a little extra incentive in it for us, Charles. So these guys want to be perfect going out for senior day. So we look forward to a great match and get these guys ready to play on Saturday.
Coach, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
We appreciate you, Charles. Go Braves.